Hey, this is Michael Parsley with the TWRA. Today we're going to talk scouting for deer. This is late season scouting. It's really just at the end of deer season. It's February 4th today. And this is really the best time you can come out and scout for deer. This is hill country. There's also farm country bedding and things like that. But today we're going to talk hill country bedding and scouting for deer in hills. And what you want to do is you want to get off the end of these spurs, these points off the big ridges. There's a difference between where you're going to find the does and where you're going to find the bucks. And right now I'm standing where we've just spooked off a great number of does off this point. There's a bed here. There's a bed right over there. There's a bed up there, and there's a bed right in here. So we've got 4 different beds. There's one right there too. So there's about 5 different beds from does. And these does are bedding on like the hands of a clock. So that doe is going to look that way. This doe is probably the matriarch, and she's got the biggest bed, and it's the best bed that's around here, and she's probably looking down the point. This doe up here looks to be last year's fawn. So she's very, very small, and she's up next to that tree right there. And then there's a very small bed right next to that lay down. But if you'll walk over here, this is the biggest doe, and this is the outline of her bed. And so the back, her back is right here, and this is her head, and here is the hair that was in her bed. You see that?
Held tight. Yep.
All right, so she bedded there last night or this morning with her family group. And like I said, they bed like the hands of a clock. And it's really not based upon wind. They're going to bed here no matter what, because it gives them security, because they're bedding in a group. So they rely on one another to provide protection, whereas the buck is different. Today we're set up on this tip of this point. This is like a quintessential buck bed. And he's bedded here. His back is right here. And his head's right here, and he's looking down the point. The wind this buck would be here on comes from the top of this point down the point, and then he'll bed here, and he'll smell the wind coming over his back, and he'll be looking down the point, making sure nothing's coming up after him. So he's got protection with his nose from his back and his eyes from down below him. He is not here today. He's not here today because one key thing, the wind is not right. The wind is blowing up this point to a certain extent, or down to the side of the point to him. It doesn't give him the protection that he needs. The wind needs to be coming this way for him to bed off this point. Now, the does are different. The does are going to bed up on the flat part of this point a little bit more than this buck. This buck, you can tell, is right at what is called the military crest of this hill, and it's right where it really starts to drop off. And so this buck, there's really nothing going to beat his eyes coming from down below him, and he can see everything. And if he smells something coming over his back with the wind, he can just hop off the end of this point, and you're never going to see him. And he's also got the protection of does that will bed up higher on this point. And the does act as another kind of safety for him, because if they're spooking, he's going to spook as well. So that's the buck bed. What you need to do when you see these buck beds is, it's a good idea to do like I'm doing, and get down and look and see exactly what he sees. So I'm down here, I can see what he sees. I'm not going to get onto this deer by coming up from the bottom, and plus it's too difficult. I mean, that's a 500-foot climb, and I'm not going to do that. The wind when he's here is going to be coming down the point, so you got to know you can't walk down the main trail on this point, because he's just going to smell you. So you're going to have to get off to the sides, and you're going to have to play the wind. So if the wind's coming this way, choose this side of the point. If the wind's blowing off on this side of the point, choose that side. You got to give him a little bit of wind that's helping him out, otherwise he won't even be here. So you don't want to hunt this with the wind doing what it's doing today, which is blowing up the point, because he's not even going to be here. He's been here recently. You can see it's been matted down, and that's what they'll do. When the wind's right, they'll be here. When it's not, he won't even be here, and you'll be wasting your time if you try and hunt this with an opposite wind.